Good morning, afternoon, or evening, wherever and whenever you are. My name is Benjamin, and welcome to another 2D hack and slash video. Let's get started. In this video, we're going to be setting up our enemy death states. And so we're going to start with the crow's death state because it's really easy to do. So let's open up the crow, and we'll open up the switch here, and we'll add a new case death, and break right here. All we have to do on this death state is create a bunch of feather particles. So let's create a new object. We'll call this one O feather, and we'll give it the feather sprite right there. We'll give it a random image angle. And I don't know if I did anything super fancy with it or not. I think we'll just give it a small gravity, like 0.5. Direction equals random. Well, let's do a random range. Random range. Let's do like 0 to 180. And then speed equals random range 3 to 6 or something. And then in the step event, we'll just have it disappear, basically fade out. If image alpha is greater than 0, else image alpha minus equals 0.1, else instance destroy. Something like that for our feather particle. And then we just have we just do a repeat here, and let's do like 6 feathers. Instance, create layer, we'll do x plus random range negative 4, y plus random range negative 4, effects layer, and we'll do O underscore feather. Let's get a little more room so we can see this all at once. There we go. Now we need to give our enemies the death state when they get hit by something. So if we come into our hitbox here, in our collision here, we basically have a couple places where we can tell whether we've hit the player or whether we've hit an enemy. So this area right here is we hit the player, and this area down here is we hit an enemy. And down here we're going to say other.state equals death. And see how that goes. Okay. I think I gotta kill this guy. Oh man, I forgot how much better the game feels with the particles in the screen shake. Okay, let's see if we can get some... that didn't work. So it's killing our enemies right away. Oh, this isn't right. This isn't right. That's why we're having issues here. I didn't go deep enough into my if other.object index equals skeleton. Oh, that's right. That's right, we're hitting the enemy there. But this isn't hitting the player. This is hitting the player right here. There we go. We hit the player, we hit an enemy. So now what we need to do is make sure that we don't actually destroy the enemy while it's in the death state. So if we come into our enemy parent here, and in here we say if HP is less than 0 and state does not equal death. So we make sure not to destroy it. Well, we make sure not to destroy it while we're still in the death state. Okay. We need a crow. Come on. There we go. Okay. I was expecting... Oh, it's because we're creating the feathers way too low. Let's go to our crow, back to our crow again. And make sure that we do y minus 16 plus random range. Let's see if we can get this to work now. Goodness, the hits feel... It's amazing how much that helps. Minus? That's right. Let's make sure we're creating feathers here. We should be. Show debug message feather. Okay. This is what happens when projects get a little bit more complicated. It feels like the crows are getting destroyed before they're ever entering their death state. That's what I think is going on here. And I thought that changing this would fix it. State does not equal death. But this is in the end step event. No, and that should be right. The end step event is correct. And this is the place where the enemies get destroyed. So that the crow shouldn't be destroyed until it actually runs this death state. So we should be creating the effects, the feathers, but we're not. I'm not seeing them. Like, we didn't get any printout. So I just did Control-Shift-F so we can search the whole project. I want to remove some of these because we don't need to see them anymore. We've got too many show debug messages. Well, that one's fine. We can leave that one in. And that one's fine too. We shouldn't be able to kill that. Because it doesn't have its own death state yet. So the crow right here. Okay, so let's go into the parents event. The enemy parents event right here. Okay. And state does not equal death. So for some reason, this is still triggering. I'm pretty sure. Show debug message state. And let's see if that's the case. Because we're in the knockback state. Because we get sent into the knockback state at the end of our hit state, basically. So you know what we could do? We could have this code right here change states. Not sure this is the best way to do this, but let's pull out instance destroy out of here and let's say state equals death. So we'll set our death state here. And then we'll say and state does not equal death state. So if we're not the death state, then we set us to the death state and create the experience. Then in our crow, after creating the particles, we just destroy ourselves like that. And in our knight, we're going to add in our death state here, but we won't do anything fancy yet. We'll just say case death, and we'll just say instance destroy. Like that, break. Don't forget the break statement. But now, our knight should still be destroyed. Just like before. But now the crows should properly create the... That's interesting. It means we just enter the death state. We just enter the death state when our health is 0. If we haven't already entered it, because you don't want to enter it. You don't want to. Basically, you don't want to be creating the experience multiple times. We're getting unlucky. We have not seen a single crow. There we go. There were some feathers. So they kind of disappear a little soon, but that doesn't look too bad. So let's change how fast they disappear. Like we'll do 0.1 or something there. So they disappear a lot slower. But now we're getting our death state. Boop. Perfect. Yeah, that looks good. Perfect. Let's do the knight's death state now. So the knight's death state, we could create a script for this potentially. See how we have the knockback state in a script? This just so that we can use it. So that we can use it in potentially more than one enemy, which is going to be useful when we get to our boss. We're going to do something similar with the death state. So we'll create a new script called death state, like this. And then inside of here, we're going to take, it's going to take an argument of sprite. Arg sprite, like death sprite. And then we're going to say sprite equals argument 0, or death sprite maybe to be more descriptive. and then we can do set state sprite, death sprite, a speed. What should our speed be? I don't know what our speed should be. I think it actually doesn't matter. What's our speed on our... Let's just set it to something and see how it looks. We'll change it later if we need to. And then index will be 0. We'll just set it to our first index. We'll set friction equal to true. And then we'll say if animation end. So if we're at the end of the animation, I think this will work. We do image index equals, well, no, we don't have to do any of that. Oh yeah, we do. Image index equals image number minus 1. So just make sure we're still on the last frame. Image speed equals 0, so stop animating. And then we do if image alpha is greater than 0, image alpha minus equals 0.1, else instance destroy. And then at the very end of this, we're going to, just in case, we need to move still. So do move and collide. And then our X speed is going to be knockback speed, I think. And then our Y speed will be 0. I think that's what we need to set up. And then once we have that set up, we can have, so let's talk about this logic here just a little bit. So we're setting the sprite to an animated death sequence, basically whatever our death sprite is. And then once the animation reaches its end, we pause on the final frame and we have it fade out and then destroy the enemy when it's gone. But we still want it to slide around on the ground if we have knockback speed still. So the death state has some similar properties to the knockback state in that way. But then if we come into our night, and in our death state, we can just call death state and use s night die like this. I think we'll be golden. Now that is funny. So why didn't it work? Well, number one, if we come into our night, you're going to see, I love it when I forget this because I know that just like I forget it all the time, my students also forget this all the time. But when I see it, I immediately know what it is just because I've been doing it for so long. When my students see it often, they're like, what is going on? Why did that happen? So if you look at our night die, we haven't set the origin on it yet. So it was actually displaying the image, but clear in the ground. So we need to set our origin to 24 and 48. So if you're having stuff where your sprite's not showing up or weird stuff with the sprite jumping around, it's probably an origin issue. Let's see if this works now. There we go. We're going to kill him multiple times. Oh my goodness, we get experience from it every time. And look at his poor health bar. This knight is really helping us level up. If we could get on the other side of him. There we go. Anyways, let's fix it instead of just, it's a feature, right? It's a feature. Okay, let's come into our first of all, our knockback state right here. See how we have knockback friction and then we're applying this knockback friction? We need to do the same thing in our death state. Where's our death state? That way we're affecting our knockback speed every single frame, and we don't slide on the ground forever like that. The knight should correctly slow down even in the death state. Yeah. Perfect. So that's the next point that we need to be at. Now for the health bar. Come into our enemy here, enemy parent, and when we're drawing the health bar, we want to exit this bit if our state is equal to death. We don't want to draw the health bar if they're in the death state. They're already dead. We don't need to know how much health they have anymore. So that should fix the health bar. One problem at a time. Okay. Now you can see he started to fade, but he's no longer fading. So there's some logic issues in our death state here. And the problem is likely that animation end no longer returns true. So it only runs this bit of code once and then stops running it. So instead of using, and I'm not sure exactly why, to be honest, because in my original one I didn't use animation end either. So yeah, I actually don't know why it no longer works. I guess we could try just not doing this right here. Let's see what happens if we just do this. I'm curious to see if that fixes it, if instead of setting our frame to the last frame. I'm a little worried that it will, it still doesn't work correctly. And our animation end is designed to trigger pretty much once. So instead of doing that, let's undo what I just did there. So we set our thing to the last frame. Let's check to see if we're greater than or equal to the last frame. So if image index is greater than or equal to image number -1. So we're just checking to see if we're on this frame. If we are, then do this next bit instead of using the animation end event. Now, I could probably figure it out, look into why this is the case, but you can see that works correctly now. See, they fade out. So I don't know why that's the case. I could probably dig deeper and figure it out why this works and using animation end here doesn't work, but I don't really want to do that in the middle of a video. Because it might take a while. So maybe that's kind of an interesting challenge if you guys want to try and figure out why this works and the other one doesn't. Either way, we set our frame to the last frame of the image, then we check to see if we are the last frame of the image every single step, and we lower our stuff there. Now there's one final glitch we need to fix, which is that hitting enemies that are already dead continues to give you experience, and we don't want that. I mean, maybe you do, but so I don't really want it. So we're going to come into our hitbox here, and inside of our hitbox, when we create our experience in here, which is where do we create our experience in here? I thought it was in here, but it might not be. It's in our enemy parent. In here, this is where we create our experience. So if health is less than 0 and state does not equal death, state equals death. Wait, are we creating experience multiple times? I would think we shouldn't be. What? Experience. It is. How is that happening? We have a check here specifically to say our state does not equal the death state. Oh, because it's every time we hit the enemy, it's putting them back in the knockback state. That's why. And so then they go from the knockback state to the death state, from the knockback state to the death state, from the knockback state to the death state. I think that's why. Yeah. So let's check our hitbox again here. So, where do we set their state to the knockback state? Right here. State equals knockback state. So we can say if other.state does not equal death, then we want to set to the knockback state. But we don't want to include the knockback speed because we do want to be able to continue to add to their knockback speed. So we can hit them when they're in the death state and they'll have like knockback to them, but it will no longer give us experience. Whoa, whoa. What did I break now? Is that if state does not equal death, other.state equals knockback? What? Why does this say other.state equals death? When did I do that? Let's undo a bit here. Huh. I did that really early. But this works. Oh, because we're sending them in the knockback state first. So this needs to come out completely. I must have forgotten to do that. To remove that bit of code there. So if other.state does not equal knockback. And there might be a better way to set up this whole system. I'm beginning to think that there's a better way to do this. But this will probably work. Okay, there we go. Got experience. Oh, we're still getting experience every time we hit them. Oh, it's because I did state does not equal knockback instead of death. So if they're not in the death state, then we put them in the knockback state. I didn't see whether that worked. I think it did. We'll have to test it on another enemy. Yeah, we can hit them, but now we no longer get experience from them. Perfect. We're looking good. We've got both death states working correctly now. Awesome. Okay. Thank you all so much for watching this video. Hope you enjoyed it and learned something from it. Even though it was a little bit tricky, we ran into some problems. We were able to figure them out, and I think that's good sometimes, is to show not perfect code. Show when you have to run into stuff, run into errors, and solve it. And part of the reason that I'm running into these kinds of things is because the original code was done in GameMaker Studio 1.4, and so I'm kind of making changes and stuff as I do it in GameMaker Studio 2, and so running into new problems, I'm not just copy pasting the code from the original one into this one. There's similarities, but we're making stuff a little different. So it's a good learning experience, and hopefully you guys are enjoying it and learning with me. So thank you all so much. If you enjoyed the video, give it a thumbs up, and I will talk to you all later.